Um, yeah. So hang on, I'll show you. It's like I thought I was C3 yesterday. Oh fuck! Am I gonna be able to turn this around? Maybe I won't. Oh, no, I will. So it's like very bright.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep.
Um, because I usually have like this one,
Right.
and I was like, my camera quality is like should be really good, but it's really like poor.
Yeah,
So then I was like, oh, maybe it's what do you call it, lighting.
for sure. We have a pretty cool light. I would move everything, but I'm afraid I'll mess the whole setup up. So
Everything is like structurally
I'm just not
integral.
gonna touch anything.
But it came with like there's like a remote.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty cool.
But I did the classic thing that I always do. Like even though it always causes a problem, I take the object that I buy out of the box and whatever cables, whatever, and then I'm just like I just throw everything else in the bin. And then
Yeah.
like I bought Savan was slagging off my mouse because my mouse takes batteries.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, like GoWad renewed for another year. Thank you, GoWad. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to reinvest everything that they give me into like stuff to make this better. So I bought
For
like a
sure.
mic, a stand that hasn't come yet, the light, a mouse, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Um, and the new mouse I got doesn't work. So, and I don't like, I'm Googling like the name of the mouse because I threw out all the instructions and
For
like,
sure, yeah.
yeah, obviously. And my wife was like, "Did you keep is there like a guarantee with it? Did you keep the receipt of the guarantee?" I was like, "No." And like, but this happens if I buy clothes, I rip the tag off before I put it
Oh,
on. And
yeah, yeah, I know.
my wife's like, "What the fuck are you doing? Like, you've been through how many times have you bought something, taken the
Yeah.
tag off, put it on, and be like, ah, no, I don't like it." And I was
Oh,
like,
yeah,
"Yeah,
that's a
but
no for me. I keep the tags on until I try it on, and I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna actually wear it."
I think that's a girl thing. I think girls are way more clued in about returning stuff and they have
For
way
sure.
less like I have anxiety or shame about handing
Mm,
something back, being like,
yeah,
I actually changed my mind.
dude, my husband's like that too. He's like, I bought it. I'm just gonna keep it, whatever." And I'm like, if I'm not gonna wear it, I am returning that. I think it's like girl math, it's like
Yeah.
kind of how we like to find like sales, right? And we're like,
Is,
well,
isn't
I
it
mean, it's
isn't it a
half off.
thing isn't it a thing where you like you some people, not you, but some people would like buy a dress for something specific, like a specific occasion,
Mm,
like put the tag on the inside and then just return it,
for
provided they
sure.
don't like
You
destroy
know,
it.
yeah, I've totally heard of that, which is why I think they started creating these websites where you could like rent something for a weekend. But now dresses, because I went to a bunch of weddings this past year, the dresses actually have this like tag on that like if you do wear it, you can see it. And if you cut that
Oh.
off, you cannot return it. So I mean it's kind of smart, but I totally know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't think I don't know. This is saying that that's wrong. What's wrong? Like putting a tag on the inside and then returning it. It's modern economics. That's what I call it. Is that a Shure mic?
Yes, it is.
That's the one I bought.
Okay, yeah, yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, so it's
It's
coming
super
on
awesome.
like Friday or Monday or something. It's not fucking cheap. I was like,
No,
how bad can it be? How bad can it be?
no.
And then I like put it in my basket. And I was like, oh Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's not, but I mean, it's pretty cool. And my husband, he plays like 7 instruments and like does a lot of audio stuff. So we did lots of research on all this stuff and it's pretty good. So good choice. Good
Yeah,
choice there.
yeah. We'll see. Um, I'm at a loss now because like I'm usually shit at bringing up links, but I'm going to be ultra shit today because I can't. Like this is just
Can't use the
irrelevant.
mouse.
Doesn't do anything. Um, how are you?
I'm
Where's your daughter?
she's in the other room.
Okay,
She might make an appearance, who knows? But
that's
yeah,
that's all right.
she's awake, hanging out with my husband. She doesn't
Yeah.
really nap, so she's like fully grown, she
What
just
is
kind
she's
of
like
like
9 months? Is she 8 months? 9 months?
she just turned 11 months. So
Oh right. Okay.
we're about a month away from her first birthday, which is
Wow.
insane how
Is that
fast
going to
that
be?
went.
Is that going to be like understated, or are you going to like rent out a hotel and?
So we were like trying to plan her birthday yesterday. It's hard because it's like I'm very much like whatever I do, I'm going all in. So like
Mhm.
I like as far as like celebrations and stuff. So we're trying to figure out, do we want to do like something where it's just 10 people, or are we inviting everyone in Los Angeles? So we're kind of going back and forth. And like with all the travel we've been doing, I feel very behind.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, this birthday would be more for, the photos and the memories that myself and my husband want versus like her. She's not going to remember it.
No.
But
I
yeah,
heard
so
someone
we're
say
trying to figure that out.
I heard someone say the other day they were talking about their child's first birthday, and they said it turned into like an ostentatious, like ridiculous, like
Yeah.
pageant. But then they were saying like it wasn't actually like it had fuck all to do with the child. It was more so like we made it, like we're
Yep.
alive, and like everyone survived. We didn't kill her. Like we're all
Yep.
here. It's fine.
Yeah.
And that's what they viewed it as. But yeah, it is. There's a lot of those kind of bizarre like milestones where our son is like 2,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
next September he's going to start in like, what do you guys call it, like preschool, like play school,
Yeah.
preschool.
Preschool. Yep. It's
Like I don't
crazy.
understand, one, I don't understand how that has happened, and then two, I don't understand like how, like you say, like, oh, that kid will bridge the gap. It like this is a chasm between
Yeah.
him and like school going. Like he's a nut job.
Yeah.
So I'm a teacher, so I'm fully anticipating the um phone calls of like, hey, we need you to come in and just have a quick chat. It
You're like,
happened
I'm
again.
ready.
Yeah, he
You
bit
were like,
someone
yes, please,
again.
let's talk about it.
Yeah, doesn't keep
That's
me up at night at
exciting.
all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's super exciting. It
um
goes by so fast, and I didn't realize how fast it was gonna go until I was in it, you know?
Yeah. There are like I was thinking the other day, who was it? Pat Vellner is having so they're having another baby.
Yeah.
And I saw he put up a picture of like his wife's bump. And
Mhm.
then like the day after that, my wife showed me pictures of like our child when he was like a weird birth, like he just kind of he just was traumatic. But like he was minuscule, like he was so small. He was
Really?
early, not like crazy early, but he was tiny. And
Mhm.
there's like a picture of him sitting beside another child, and they're the same age, and he's about half the size of the other child.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
now he's like a brute. But you forget like how insanely small they were, and
Yeah.
like how useless and just like inanimate. And then it's kind of like I remember at the time thinking, God, this is so hard. Like looking after like one kid and then 2 kids. It's like, oh, it's so hard, blah blah. That's actually the easiest
Yeah.
phase, is that when they're an inanimate object that's just
Right.
like might be upset, might want something, whatever, but it's a quick fix
Yeah.
versus
Yep.
like a fucking tantrum or like, wreck in the house or like,
Oh, yeah.
you know, I once caught one of my daughter's shits as it fell from her ass. Like when she was like 1.5. My wife has done it. Like they're the things that
Yeah.
like stick with you till your grave, I think.
Oh,
Like
for
holding
sure.
holding another human's turd in your hand, thinking
Oh,
like
yeah.
this is
Yeah.
adulthood. Yeah.
Parenthood,
So
man, it's wild. That's for
yeah,
sure.
you do a lot of things that you think you'll never do
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
Um. So yeah, but she's like, I saw her at Crash,
Mhm. Yeah.
and like, I do I include my own kids in this? Yeah, I think head over heart ruling. I don't include my kids. Head ruling, I do. Like
Yeah.
the cutest baby I think I've ever seen
She's
is
pretty
Rogue. Like
cute.
she is
Yeah.
not so cute.
Yeah, I don't
She's
know.
also a carbon copy of her husband. Like it's like someone took his face. It's like Face Off, Nicolas Cage, but Nicolas Cage is a baby.
Yeah, I know. Literally, I haven't heard anyone say she looks like me
Yeah, I know.
at
I'm
all.
sorry. I get that with my
It's
own
okay.
kids.
I
I
know. But
sometimes
yeah,
wonder if I
she
was there.
yeah, she is a cute baby. I
Yeah.
honestly like I didn't really pay attention to like babies before, and now I do, and I'm like, wow, she is a really good looking baby, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
I
and I was fully prepared for her to come out looking like weird, and just be like, oh, she'll grow into herself. But I was like, oh, she's pretty like cute. She's alert. Like she was like just from the beginning, she's been very like alert. Like, she's
Yeah.
always made, like, eye contact, and people would tell me, like, "Oh, that won't happen for months," and yeah, I don't know. I have no
Yeah, I
idea. It
think I
could yeah, it could be just, like, we kinda threw her into our lives, and, like, we're
yeah,
still doing the things we were doing before, um, and we didn't
that's true.
really, change much.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah, this is costume 1. So she was a snail. This was like a $5 costume, and we crushed it. Um, but yeah, this is
It's actually
costume
really
1.
good.
We got some more fun Halloween costumes coming.
Yeah, she's absolutely adorable. Um,
Yeah.
that was a crash, yeah. Look at
Yeah.
that. Look, same
Look
face.
good. Just photo ready.
Yeah. But she's
Yeah.
incredibly mobile as well. Like running she was like nonstop running around
Dude, yeah. Did
um
you see
a
the
crash.
video of her that went viral?
No, you mentioned that
Oh, yeah, yeah,
was
you
it
go
on
if you go
ESPN or
down
something?
yeah, it was on ESPN, but if you go down a little further on,
Okay.
Josh Ormai's page, um, yeah, she was, like, hanging onto a pull-up bar, or, like, it was a barbell, but
Oh,
as
I
if
see
a
it.
pull-up bar.
Oh my god, this is nuts.
Yeah, and we were like, "Oh, that's pretty cool," um, and we were like, "Oh, we'll post it," and it just blew up, and I mean, half the world hates us, half the world loves us, um yeah, and then ESPN and a bunch of, like, SportsCenter,
Her
like, a bunch of
face.
them, like, reposted it and stuff, and I haven't read any of those comments because I was warned that they're not, super nice, so I was like, "I'm just gonna stay away," Like, I know she's good, I know she's happy, I know she's healthy,
Yeah. All the ones
and
on
she
screen are positive apart from
for sure, yeah.
Kayla Adams and Ashley Wozni. She's always good. F
Yeah.
off, this is
Yeah,
cute
yeah,
as hell. She's always good
exactly.
for a positive comment.
Ash has got my back.
Um Yeah, it's funny though, isn't it? Like parenting, and that kind of stuff. Like, I don't think anything garners comments more, or like people like intrusive comments
Yeah,
more than either like parenting or diet. They're the
yeah,
two things that like
yeah, it's
just
wild.
yeah,
But yeah, I
nobody.
mean, for me, like, just being around like the entertainment world, it's very much like something like, when you post something, you put it out there and it's out there forever. And like
Mhm.
I've just learned like you don't read the comments and you don't engage. It's just not worth the energy.
Yeah,
But yeah.
straight facts from JR. It got a lot longer dead hang from a brand new, like absolute
I mean,
facts.
yeah. I mean, she might have a longer dead hang than I do.
Yeah. If she lasted 3 seconds, she's got a longer dead hang than I do. Um, so you were at Crash. That's we met
Yeah.
each other at Crash and we chatted a bit at Crash. Did you enjoy that?
Oh, it was awesome. I've actually been telling quite a few people, that they should check it out next year. A lot of athletes that maybe they've never, um, been able to punch their ticket to the games, or maybe they've been trying to get to semifinals, regionals, the whole ordeal. Um, that they should really check this out. I
Mhm.
had a great time. I'm obviously not the fittest I've ever been, but I appreciated the programming. I thought it was really well rounded. It was fun. Um, like I loved that I had to work on higher skills and stuff to prepare to show up.
Mhm.
Um, just like the level, like the caliber of athlete that was present, not just in like the masters division, but also the elite division. Like, I mean, that was awesome. And I don't know, maybe like I know it was in South Carolina, right? Like, I just don't see like that many like athletes in the CrossFit space in Los Angeles. So to see like that many people like on that side of the country was so cool, and a lot of faces that I've never seen before or never
Mm.
heard of, and I was just blown away with the talent. Like I remember there was a group of girls, I think they're in the army, or like they're on like the team. Like there were a few girls, I don't remember their names, but they're connected to the army. And I spoke to them before they competed. So throughout the weekend I was watching them and I was just like, wow, they're
Mm.
very good. And I don't think correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think that they have been to the games. I don't know if they've been to maybe they've been to, like, semifinals this past season or whatever, but I haven't seen them much, and I
Hmm.
thought that was so cool to see, like, new talent. Um,
Yeah.
just
No, and I think as well, like it's a very accessible um environment for someone who wants to see what it would be like to go to that level, because it's like it is an affiliate and it feels like an
Mhm.
affiliate, but it also gives you the sensation of like being corralled, waiting in the corridor, coming
Yep.
out, like, it feels like a semi-final, but it's in an affiliate, so you get the best of
Yeah.
both worlds. Like, you're not going to be overawed, like, oh fucking hell, like, and freaking
Yeah.
out, but you still have that, like, you can kind of dip your toe and see what it feels like and get that experience without being just thrown in at the deep end altogether and like
Yeah,
drowning potentially.
100%, and the way, JR ran the entire weekend, um, I don't think I've ever been part of a competition that has been more on time, like, in my life, and I've been
Yeah,
doing this for a very, very long time. So that was very appreciated from the athlete experience side of things.
mm,
Um, and I think honestly, like when you are competing, I think as an athlete, like that is like those little things like mean so much, and it makes for a great experience. And really, like when hosting these competitions, you really want to make sure that these athletes are enjoying it, right?
yeah,
Like you don't, there's been competitions that I have competed at where it's like, things get pushed like 2 hours or like the rest of the events get canceled. Like it's just like, or like the wrong I don't know, the wrong sandbags are out on the floor, or like someone has 100-pound sandbag, someone has a 70-pound sandbag, and you're just doing a
mm,
different workout. So I've just like been to a lot of competitions where they are not ran like that, and it was like so cool to be a part of. Um and I highly, highly recommend that to a lot of athletes out there. Even athletes that have been to the games and maybe they are, feeling like they need more reps,
mm,
or more practice. I'm big on like repetition. Like I've always been kind of like, I want more. So I'm more confident.
yeah,
And I know not everybody needs that, but if that is the case for some athletes out there to just like kind of get thrown out there, like just put the pressure on yourself once in a while, right? Because I know for myself, like not having competed for a year, just putting a little pressure on myself. I was just kind of like I'm like, oh God, I kind of forgot how to compete a little bit, and just like you do things that you don't know you're actually capable of, when you
yeah.
do put yourself into situations like that.
Yeah, I don't know anything about the competitive side, but I do agree that it is a like a valuable, cog in the competitive season for athletes. Do you know, like there's athletes that are coming back from injury or athletes that are coming back
Mhm.
from, a break or whatever, that I think it's a reasonable touch point to include. And then I think as well,
Yeah.
another aspect is like there are competition organizers out there who could learn a lot from someone like JR. Like
Yeah.
you don't get to that militaristic style approach to timing by chance or by fluke. Like that's deliberate and it's ingrained. Like I remember when we were leaving on Saturday night, I think, without being asked to or without being hinted at about it, they all of the volunteers and stuff started taking up numbers off the floor and putting down new numbers on the floor and changing all the equipment out for Sunday morning and getting everything ready for that like community event thing he was running. And then same on Sunday night, everyone was clearing off all the numbers on the floor. And it's like, again, that doesn't happen by fluke. Like that's instilled from the top down where people want to do, like JR is a nice guy and people like to please him and it shows. And then
Yeah.
that makes his competition run smoother because people are like, hey, I want to do, like, he's a good guy, I want to do right by him,
Mhm.
versus like fuck this guy, I'm going home at 6:01 or whatever.
Dude, yeah.
um
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's good. Um when we were there, you so a few things came up in conversation, and one of the things that came up was your work as a stunt actor.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
um
Sense.
so like how does that, do you just trip over and catch yourself and be like, "Shit, I'm really good at falling over," or like how
No,
do you wind
it's
up?
not.
Did you like
So
fall down the stairs unscathed and be like, "Wait
yeah,
a
I was
minute."
like, I can do this. No, so I did grow up in Los Angeles. So
Okay.
I have been around the entertainment world my whole life, but I was never really looking to be part of it. I did grow up with a couple really good friends that they're big time stuntmen. They come from a stunt family. So I was aware of that career for quite
Mhm.
a long time. Um, but fast forward, basically, like I got done with college. I came back to LA. So I went to UNLV. I was a cheerleader there. And I found CrossFit. And CrossFit is where I met my husband. And while, my whole journey in the beginning, I started getting better. Then eventually I coached at an affiliate. And we had a couple stuntmen that were like, "Oh, hey, like there's this show. They're looking for guys that know how to fight." I told my husband, he auditioned for this show. This is kind of like the fast story. And he got a job. So he was able to do stunts full time. So basically, like he has a boxing, baseball background, so he can fight. And
Mhm.
he was hired onto the show Marvel Universe Live. He did that for a year. It's a traveling stunt show.
Who was
Um,
he?
he played the Hulk. So he was like in
Wow.
that giant costume. I mean, that thing, he'll have to kind of tell me, but I mean, that thing is heavy,
Yeah.
very heavy. And then also played like a lot of bad guys. So that was like, so he did that for a year. Then I auditioned and I got onto the same show because I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like I would love to travel. And I have a cheerleading background, so I could like tumble. So everybody that kind of like gets onto something like this, they come with some form of skill, right? Like you
Mm.
don't, they're not just going to be like, oh, hey, yeah, you're great. Come on. So we all
Is
come
it
with
is it is
some
it the kind of
sort
thing
of
though, you know, you always hear about like actors' CVs and stuff where they're like, "Oh yeah, I can horse ride. I'm fluent in 5 languages." Like, is it that type of thing where as a stunt actor, you say like, "Yeah, I can be set on fire, no problem," and then one day you go to set, they're like, "We're going to set you on fire." Like, "Oh fuck, I shouldn't have put that down." Like, are
I've
you able to
actually,
lie?
yeah, there is a lot of that. And let me tell you, in the stunt world, you do not want to put that stuff on your resume if you have not done it. Which is why like getting like stunt jobs is so difficult, right? Because a lot of the time, like those coordinators that are hiring you on, it's because they know you and they trust you,
Okay.
right? Like, um, so basically I was on that show. We did that for 3 years.
Mhm.
And then so while doing so, we were able to do that full time. We traveled the world. We were all over the US, Canada, and Europe. We came back. We did some stunt shows out here. We joined the union. So we are part of the film TV union as well. That's on strike right now.
Are
Um,
you allowed to be doing this interview?
yeah, the interview's fine. um, but yeah, so um, that's basically like kind of that stunt show. That time frame is when we were able to pick up and learn a lot of skills that you wouldn't normally be able to learn just like because you wanted to. So things like car drags, high falls, where we're jumping 20 feet into a resi pad safely. Um,
Yeah. They're those
uh,
big blue inflatable things, is
yeah,
it?
yep,
Yeah,
yep,
okay.
into that as well. So that's an
When you
airbag,
say
and then there's
when you
resi
say
pad.
car drag, is that like as it sounds, you're literally dragging behind a car?
Yeah, you're literally dragging on a car. So that was one of my tracks. And you have like a special costume made. There was actually my first time doing it. They put me into this costume that wasn't broken in. So it was like Kevlar, like it's just this tight costume, and we're laying on the ground, and it's like 3, 2, 1. You get up. It's kind of like a burpee, and I had to run after this car. So I dive for the car and my fingertips like clip the car and I just belly flop in the center. And this is a live show. So it's like yeah, and my husband was on the back of the car, so he's like, "Come on!" So I get up and I'm like running. I mean, it was great, and I have a helmet on, which is why stunts is so awesome because nobody knows it's you.
Yeah.
So it's like you don't have to brush your hair, you don't have to do your makeup. If you mess up, you mess up. And like so basically like we picked up all those skills on the road. We moved back home to California, um, where we joined another live show at Universal, and my husband and I played the same track, and there was a fire burn, which was something I had learned on Marvel Universe Live. So my husband set me on fire for my first fire burn ever. And then I came here, did I think I have over like 500 fire burns, like live show fire burns. So full body, yeah, pretty crazy, pretty
But
cool.
that, like, you're obviously that first time, are you just like fully trusting that like this will be fine? Or like
Yes.
is it just like cycling a bike where yes, there is potential dangers, but like if you're logical, you know how safe it is, or like doing a bungee jump where you know there is danger, but it's safe. It's just turn into that where it's just like this has never hurt me, it's fine, and you don't even think about it.
I mean, like were a lot of experts in that field. And when you learn from people that know what they're doing, you pick that up, right?
Mm,
And so I think just having specific people around me and also my husband, who I fully trust, right? He's the one lighting me. It's like you just need to know a few things, right? Like if so for fire, right? Like if you are on fire, you want to keep moving, right? Like
oh yeah,
if you
okay.
stand in place, you're going to be engulfed, right? So it's just like things like that and just knowing like kind of like how long is this burn going to last? Like where am I going to go to lay down so I can be put out? Just like things like that. So it's like you study it, you watch it, um you go over the layers, you double check things. So it's like stunt work is you're not a daredevil, right? Like stunts
Mm,
and being a daredevil are very different things. Like stunts is like you prepare to come out safe. Like everything, like the plan is to be safe. With being a daredevil, right? Like things like you're just like you're sending it and like you don't know what's gonna happen.
mm,
And so I just feel like yeah, there's a lot of things in the stunt world that are scary, but if you have the right coaching and the right people in your corner, like I think that they can be done safely. Obviously, like you need to be kind of good on the fly, right? Like
yeah.
under pressure situations. Like there's like especially with live shows, like there's been times where like I'm going up to do a high fall into the airbag and my spotter miss their spot. So they're not there. So I look down. If my spotters are not there, I climb down the ladder. So just like things like that. Would I be safe? Probably. It's an airbag. The airbag was good. It's blown up. But my safety spotter wasn't there. So I'm not going to do this stunt. Right. So
What's
there's
their
just
job? What's the spotter's
um,
job?
just to make sure that they're double checking the airbag, making sure it's like inflated the full way and spotting. So like the pads, like the airbag's very large, but like say you jump off and you're off from the center of the bag, right? You could like roll off the bag or
Mm.
something. So they're just there for like extra safety, like,
And what kind of
you know.
height would you be jumping from?
So I was doing like 20, 25 feet,
Oh, okay.
which is probably, like kind of like what we were doing multiple times in a show. There
That's
was
like the
one
roof. That's like the roof of a two-story house, like around that, is it?
uh, yeah, I'd say a little
Around there
less.
somewhere.
Yeah, I'd say a little less,
Okay, yeah.
depends, I guess.
The roof of my two-story house.
Yeah, there's not a lot of two-story out here in LA.
Okay, yeah, fair. Yeah, that's fair.
Everything's pretty small. But
Yeah.
but yeah,
Or
so just like
huge.
things like that. Or yeah, it's like one or the other, right? Like you either live in
Yeah.
like a tiny little home
It's either
or
10
a
feet or
mansion.
500 feet. Yeah.
Yep, that is
Um,
exactly what it is out here.
And is all of your stunt work like live shows? Have you done like pre-recorded stuff like movies,
Yeah,
TV shows, that kind of stuff?
I've done TV, and stuff, and just a lot of, like, I would say, like, the stuff that I've done in live shows is, like, cooler in my opinion,
Mm,
just because like, a lot of fire burns. I've never done a fire burn, like, on, like, film TV, um, and I think a lot of that I think a lot of that, like, when we were really pursuing the stunt world, like, I was also CrossFitting, quite a bit, and, like, my size, like, I'm not someone that's able to, like, double, like, a female actor,
yeah.
um, so there was a lot of that, so it would have to be kinda, like, a little more, like, background stuff, but yeah, I've done, like, some stuff for, like, SWAT and some other shows, no movies, just
Mm.
TV, and a lot of it's just, like, earthquake, explosions, like, I did this one thing, you'll think this is funny, I forget what show it was, but it was like, they were like, "Hey, we need someone to lift a sandbag." I was like, "Oh, cool." Like, my CrossFit training is paying off right now, like, I get there, that bag was like, I mean, it was like 5 pounds, and they were like, "Okay, you gotta make it look really heavy," and I'm like, "Oh boy."
Just give me a heavy sandbag then.
Dude, yeah, so yeah, I'm like, "Just give me a heavy sandbag then." So yeah, like, that was the one thing because I was, like, so excited, and it was supposed to be this, like, dead body drag, like, carry, but then COVID happened, and so they had to, like, change it to a sandbag, but the sandbag wasn't heavy, you know?
They swapped the was
Like a
the sandbag
human.
sandbag supposed to look like a human though?
No, no, they just, like,
So
kinda,
they
like,
changed,
gave you
like, the plot.
scripted.
It was
Yeah,
like, "You're gonna
yeah,
carry this dead body." It was like, "Actually, you're just gonna move this
yeah.
bag of sand
Dude,
from
yeah.
one
I
place
mean,
to another."
a lot of that went on. But yeah,
Yeah,
like
that's
a dead
funny.
body, like, right, like a limp body would have made
Yeah,
more sense for someone of my
yeah.
size. But yeah, so, we still are part of the union, but we're not, like, actively, like, seeking jobs, and I think that's just because with what we were doing with CrossFit and what we were doing with stunts is kinda, like, merged together, so we're training a lot of people in the entertainment world,
Mm.
like singers, uh, you know, producers, actors, all of those kind of people, because of our network in the stunt world and all of our CrossFit experience. It kind of like got married together. So we got a lot more calls for that kind of stuff,
Mm.
which is really cool because obviously you just can't like throw your body around forever. Like if we like book something, obviously we're going to take the job because we love it and it's so fun.
Are you any
Um,
more reluctant to do things since Rogue came along?
Oh, no, no.
No.
Like, cause I think the things that I, was doing, like, I'm pretty confident. Just like I've done so many reps, like there
Yeah, yeah.
and too, it's like there are experts in all the fields in stunts, right? And so it's like, as long as you're like honest of like with your capabilities and stuff, a good coordinator is not going to put you into a situation to where you're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's just like the thing, like fire burns, like I just feel like I did so many, like that I'm pretty confident and I'm confident in the people that keep me safe. And I
Yeah, yeah.
think that is really important. Like I would never do a fire burn without people I trusted around me.
Yeah. You
So
wouldn't let someone just squirt, like, lighter fluid on you.
absolutely not. And, like, you'd be surprised, like, you brought this up earlier, but, like, a lot of people, like, they'll be like, "Oh, yeah, I've done fire burn," like, there's a lot of, like, um, they'll say what they need to say to get the job, and so,
Yeah.
this just
Chancers.
sometimes that
We call
isn't.
them chancers in Ireland. They're called chancers, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I totally get it because sometimes you need to just be like, "Yeah," so you get an opportunity, but, like,
Yeah.
I don't think that that should always be the case with certain things, you know?
Yeah. I think
I
saying
just feel like
you can ride a horse is very different from saying you can be dragged by a car or, like, set on
yeah,
fire or jump off a
yeah,
building safely or whatever.
yeah,
Um, so
100%.
would you describe then, like, your kinda you mentioned the shift between kind of merging CrossFit and stunts and stuff and acting and stuff. Would you describe it as like personal training then for those like clients that you mentioned, like the actors, the
Yeah,
singers,
I
the
would
musicians, that kind of
yeah.
stuff?
For some of them, it is, they are getting ready for a specific role, right? And so there's that, and then there's also the people that we just train to just be in shape and look good, feel
Mm,
good kind of thing. So there are some jobs, that we get hired on for to where it is very specific to a role that they've booked. And then there's just people that like, they want to look good. They need
mm,
help because they are busy people,
yeah.
and so just having like people that they trust. And we try our best to, we do a pretty good job of like keeping their privacy like very high on like our priority list, and like we
Hmm.
respect them. And I think that's why it's led to so many like, cool opportunities within that space, is just because we're just kind of like, okay, yeah, we got you, like we don't
Mm.
really talk about it too much. We don't have the camera in their face when they're training and, you
Have
know.
you had any, like, you don't have to say any names, obviously, but have you had any where like someone walked in or like was coming or whatever, and you're like, holy shit, like play it cool? Like,
No,
has there been any of those kind of moments?
no, not really. I think that I mean, I think for me, it's just like I've been around Hollywood my
Mm,
whole life. And, for me, I'm just kind of like, they're just normal people,
yeah.
like they're normal people. And like Josh and I, we see them at their most vulnerable too. Right. And so I think
Crying,
there's a
crying
really
after
cool
burpees or
thing.
whatever.
Right, yeah, and it's like, I think that there's just like it's kinda like in the CrossFit space too, right? Like when you coach a class there, like you work out in a group, it's like that's why people like that's the like mutual thing like you guys get to talk about and stuff. So I
Mm,
think yeah, there hasn't really been anyone where I'm like, "Oh my god, so cool." There's been a lot of people where I'm like, "Wow, they're really cool in person," like or like they're
yeah, yeah,
exactly what I thought they'd be like, which is always really, really cool, because you always
yeah,
want people to kinda be the same as they seem, you know?
yeah.
Um, and I think,
Even if
like
even if that's an asshole.
I mean,
Like
yeah, I
I knew
mean,
that guy would be an asshole.
yeah, luckily, we haven't really dealt with that, so
Yeah.
I'm fingers crossed, but yeah, nobody wants to
You
work
said
with an
you
asshole,
said
so
there that there'd be like some people might come to you for specific roles. Is that like, so would they be coming to you to want to be able to, like, I don't know, work on their whatever, like plyometrics so they can jump on and off things or whatever and look more athletic? Or is it like, oh, I need like a massive chest and shoulders for this job I have coming up in 6 months. Can you help me? Like, is it that kind of thing? Or
uh,
is it like
yes,
actual movement?
yes, yeah, both actually, I mean, I can talk about, so Josh, he worked with, Jack, Champion, who is on Avatar, and that specific job, was to get I mean, he was like 13 at the time, and that job was to make him look like like, as ripped as he could be at like 13, and doing that safely, right? And it's hard, like he's 13 years old and, he doesn't work out. I mean, I wasn't 13 working out at the gym, doing like bicep curls and bench press, so just like having someone over his shoulder to kind of guide him through that safely. And so that whole job was to get him ready for the specific role in Avatar because he was the only like non-blue person.
Yeah,
So he was like
I'm
seen
really slow at it, but I'm getting a picture of him up here.
Okay, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, he was like
Okay, that's
or
him.
I'm trying yeah, yeah, that's him in the movie. But, like, so he was seen on the entire film, and so just making sure he was, like, camera ready. So, a lot of that like, a lot of the clients that we work with is to get them camera ready. And then there's just, other clients that they just need a good workout in. And some you'd be surprised, like, a lot of people are in and out of LA, so we'll work with them for, like, months at a time, and then they are traveling the world, and then they come back, and they're like, "Hey, we need to work out again," and then they're gone. So it's just it's, um it's it's one of those jobs that I don't think is for everybody to where, like, you're just like, "Oh, yeah, there's Josh's name."
Yeah.
Um, to where, like, you kinda
Sorry,
have to be
a
yeah, I
pudgy
know.
12-year-old to a pretty ripped 16-year-old. That's just such a
He's
ridiculous line.
I know, it's so great.
That's funny.
That is
That's
great.
funny.
Yeah, that article was pretty good. But yeah, I think it's like one of those jobs that like you kind of have to be ready to pivot at any moment. Um, and it is definitely something you need to be prepared for before you are given the opportunity, right? So when this opportunity happened, it was like we had put in so much time, when nobody's looking and nobody's asking. So when the job opportunity came, it was like, "Oh yeah, we're confident we can do this."
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, it's been pretty cool and hopefully like with the strike and everything, hopefully that ends soon.
Hmm.
We thought it was going to be over like last week, but it's still going on.
So
Um,
is this the same? Is this the Screen Actors Guild strike? Is because there was a writer strike, but that's over,
mhm.
right?
That's over,
And
yeah, yeah. And
this
we
is
thought
separate to
that
that.
yes, this is separate, and we thought
Okay.
that, it was gonna be like, the SAG was going to kind of follow pretty closely to after the writers' strike, but there's been a lot of back and forth, and I mean, I would assume, like, there's a lot of stuff, like, on the AI stuff that is kinda going back and forth, and I think that's what's going on, so it'll
Hmm.
be interesting to see if it wraps up soon or if they can kinda come to an agreement.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I think people are starting to just be like, "Okay, we're ready to work again."
Yeah, even from my perspective, I'm kind of okay about it now, but I know there's going to be a point where there's just nothing to watch, or not, like, where there's just a gap where it's like shit. Like there's a lot
Yep,
of like
yep,
random mid-season breaks in shows. That's just like
yep,
how long. And I remember this
yeah.
happened. Was it like 2003 or four or five or
Yeah,
something that
it's been
happened
a
as well?
long time.
And I remember there was like I used to watch loads of American shows illegally online because we couldn't get them in Ireland. And I used to watch them. And I remember just like every week I'd go on. There was this website. I can't remember the name of the website, but there was a website you go on. It would just list all the shows and it would have links to them. And I just remember going on and there just like literally been nothing listed for like weeks and
Yeah,
weeks. And I was
yeah,
just like, oh my God, it was
so
awful.
good. But
Um,
yeah, I do. I think we're gonna run into that again.
yeah,
Like it's great right now. But there will be a point, I think, where everyone's like, "Oh, this is awful. Oh my God,"
yeah, yeah. You can even see what the Marvel movies are being pushed, like the ones that were supposed to be out like next summer is now it's like, oh, maybe 2028, or like they're really pushing them out.
Yeah.
Um,
Or like
you know,
or 2, are they gonna even do them? Like, who knows?
yeah,
Like,
yeah, maybe, yeah,
just like, are they gonna reevaluate and just be like, "Nah, we're good."
yeah.
Like,
I don't
I
know,
have
like
no idea.
their most recent ones made quite a bit of money, so I imagine if they can get back to it, they'll get back to it.
Sure,
Um,
yeah.
so that article there where it talks about Josh and that kind of stuff. One of the things that I've seen frequently, like down through the years, is either a trainer coming out and saying, "Here's how I got whoever like ripped as shit for whatever role they were doing," or you might have an actor coming out saying, "Here's how I got ripped enough to do like Hugh Jackman. Here's how I got ripped to do Wolverine," or like Ryan Reynolds. Here, I always like Men's Health, and it's like Ryan
Yep.
Reynolds interview, like Chris Hemsworth interview, Chris Hemsworth stuntman interview, like or a personal trainer of Tom Hardy or whatever. Um, and like you kind of read the stuff, and it maybe it's duplicitous of me, or like I just have double standards about it or something. Because I get pissed off when people accuse like CrossFit athletes of like, oh, they're all on steroids. I'm like, well, like
Right.
that's baseless, whatever. But when I see that, I'm like, that's a fucking quick turnaround from like,
Sure,
like
yeah,
thinking like Tom Hardy when he's in uh Bronson and he's massive and huge, and then he's
yeah,
in something else and he's small, and then he's Bane and he's huge again. And I'm like, come on, man. I mean, there has to be
yeah.
some additional little help going on there. Is that something? Do you think that that's something that's common in those kind of circles where, like, not? I'm not saying like it with you, the people that you train, but say actors who have maybe 3 months to get ready for such and such a role, and like maybe they're
Yeah.
coming off like Christian Bale being Batman
Sure.
after
Yeah.
being basically anorexic in his last film, The Machinist or
Yeah.
whatever. Like,
Yeah, I
is
mean,
there
I
supplementary
I
help?
do
Like,
think yeah, I do think that there are, cases where people are using some help. I hopefully, like, they're doing it smartly and safely. That's just for us, it's not something that we're really super interested in.
mm,
Um, you know, but I'm sure just like kinda how I feel like, in sports too, right? Like, I am always hopeful that people are clean, but I'm sure that there are people that are using stuff to help them get to their goal faster.
yeah.
Um, as
It's
far
just
as like
there is kind of a parallel though between like, say, the professional like the CrossFit athletes that don't have to work, like, quote
right,
unquote, that don't have like a 9 to 5 job or whatever,
yeah,
and the actors that are like in a good enough place that they can say, all right, I'm going to be Batman in 6 months, fuck everything else, I'm just going to focus. And they just have like all day every day where that's their only focus, and they're eating towards that and training towards that, whatever else. And then you look at CrossFit athletes that don't have any other responsibilities, and they have all day every day to focus on. And both of those strands of people are accused regularly of, it's like, well, no one can do that. And it's like they literally have nothing
yeah,
else to do for
yeah.
X amount of time.
I no, I totally get that. Like, and I do think it's possible to, if you are someone that just like has the time for that. A lot of the people that we've worked with, like in the entertainment world, like it's like they don't have time like that, like all the time. It's like they have a lot
Mm,
of like meetings and like then they have to go talk to this person and go do this and go do that. And is it possible? Yes. I would think it's case by case, kind of depending, right?
mm,
Like they'd have to block off everything and basically be a full-time athlete to prepare, I think, in a short period of time. And I do think that some actors are very capable of doing that, right? Like you're getting paid big money to do this role, like do it right, right? So if that,
mm.
you know, requires you to be in the gym all day, then I hope that they are in the gym all day, but I do know that they are very busy people, especially like the bigger they get, like I feel like the busier they get, you know?
God, I would have thought it'd be the opposite. I thought like Chris
No.
Hemsworth would be able to just say like, "Oh fuck," sorry, "fuck off, mate," and like not turn up
Yeah, yeah.
to whatever he
I
needs to
mean,
turn
like,
up to.
yeah, I'm sure there's a little like, like they overslept and they showed up to set late and like it's just kind of like all right, they look over it, where if you're like the new person and you do that, you're
Yeah.
never working again, right? So I'm sure there's a lot of like that. um
Mm,
but I don't know, I just like from what I know and like what we've like dealt with, it just like they're very busy, like the bigger they get. And it's like, yeah, they can pay people to do XYZ, but they're just like always needed. Or like,
mm,
I don't know, like they always gotta like have their, their nails done and their hair done because, they always gotta be ready. And so I just feel like they're always just like slammed with appointments and stuff.
mm. So then, is it more? Would you say it's more often than not more than just training? Then, if they're that busy and that in demand and that short on time.
Like as in like, are they using supplements to get
Yeah, I mean, that's
um
because I was kind of giving them the
oh,
benefit of the doubt, but then it kind of you
yeah.
made it sound like they don't have as much
They
time as I think they have.
No, no, I mean, they like it just kind of like it's case by case, right? And so I do think it is possible to to get to a place where you are portraying a superhero. I just think there a lot more time and discipline goes into it. And I think like maybe like they start the people we've worked with, like they've started earlier than you think they've started, if that
Yeah.
makes
Okay,
sense.
I
So
follow.
like
Yeah.
if there's a Marvel movie coming out, next year, we've already started working with them. And I don't know, what other trainers in the industry are doing, and I don't know when they start with them. I don't know when these guys start prepping with them. But like for us, it's like months out, right? And two, like with superhero stuff, right? Like a lot of the time, like these guys, they're in good shape, like, right?
Mm,
So a superhero. You need to make sure you're super like big on top and make sure that that's kind of what you're hammering. Like the movie muscles as we
Yeah.
call them.
I kind of
Um
always feel like as well, like so, um, every male anyway, every male superhero has one per movie, like topless scene.
mhm.
So
Yeah,
like Chris Hemsworth in Thor, topless, like maybe once per movie. Um, what the fuck is his name? Chris Pratt. Like he
yeah,
probably
Chris
had the
Pratt.
most remarkable transformation of
Yeah,
anyone from
yeah.
Parks and Rec, and then he was in Guardians of the Galaxy, and he had that one topless scene at the start of Guardians of the Galaxy, and I've seen him on his Instagram story wearing like Spanx and shit, where he's like, he obviously gets like ripped for that day, and then he's like, "Fuck that, I'm not doing that forever."
Yeah,
Like, so
for
I think there's
sure.
also a lot of that as well.
Oh, I think there 100% is a lot of like, okay, it's coming up. I got to look this way for this day. And then it's like, I'm eating whatever I want for the next week. Right. So
Yeah, yeah,
I do think there is a lot of up and down and like, and you got to remember too, like they're very good at what they do, like acting. Right. Like, but they're also like human. Right. And so it's really hard to like, um, ask these guys like to do that,
yeah,
because that's not like they're not like a CrossFit athlete, right? Like
yeah,
where,
yeah,
n you know, eh, like they're wired a little different. Um,
yeah.
and so, yeah, that doesn't surprise me, right? Like when you see them like super ripped and super shredded, and then like a month later, they're just like,
Just
"Ugh,
normal,
I'm
yeah,
done." Yeah. So like, I
yeah.
mean, that's very
It's like someone
expected.
prepping for a show, basically prepping for like a bodybuilding show. Like
100
you can't be like that all the time. Like,
Dude,
yeah,
100%, like
yeah,
and like, what's tough too is, like, sometimes, like, you are, like they'll be like, "Okay, you got 3 months to get ready," like, and we're like, "Okay, that's great, that's enough time," and then all of a sudden, it's like, "Oh, in 2 weeks, we're filming this," like, "You're coming," and you're just like so there's a lot of that,
mm,
and so just making sure you're kinda, like, trying to help them maintain. And then when it's like go time, it's like, okay, you're all in. Like,
mhm,
you gotta be watching what you eat, like everything. But if you ask that of especially like a kid actor, like, year like for that amount of time, like just year round, like it'd never work.
mm,
Right. So you need to like, especially with child actors, right? Like you need them to have something to look forward to. And if all you're doing is like making them, like, just eat, like, spinach, egg whites, forever. Like, I mean, they're just at some point, it's just, like, they're gonna fall off so hard, there's no return. Like,
yeah,
there's gonna be, like, cake, ice cream, so I think, like, having that, like, "Okay, it's coming up in 3 months. Okay, we gotta start prepping," and then, like, around this time is when we really need to go all in, so you look good on camera, and then we can have like an off week and that whole thing. And like for me, like it's been really cool to like watch that with Josh and Jack, like and just like kind of the dynamic of that, right? Like where it's like, okay, it's go time. Okay, now we can eat whatever we want and
mm,
go, you know, go out for ice cream or eat pizza or, and like being around him when he's on, it's like he's on, So it's just like it is a lot of like I don't want to call like it's kind of like a yo-yo or like
yeah,
just
yeah,
up and down a lot. Because you can't do that 24/7 forever,
yeah.
you
Um,
know?
it's interesting. Like, it's a nice little segue where so there's two people that I want to talk to you about
Mhm,
with coaching. So one of them, both of them kind of fall into that. One of them particularly, but most recently I saw you at Rogue,
mhm.
helping Bethany Shadburn Flores,
Yeah.
with her performance there, and you were kind of like supporting her. And Josh seems to be doing a lot of like videography and stuff for her and making stuff for her as well, which is cool. It's good to have a man of many hats helping around.
Yes, that he does.
And she's an interesting one. So she obviously moved. She moved from Vegas and moved over like that side of the country. towards where you guys are. Her husband has a job or something over there, is it? He's a
Yeah.
coach or something?
He so Bethany, so actually Bethany and I, so we do not coach Bethany.
Okay.
We're just really, really good friends. So basically she moved out here to live with her now husband.
Yeah.
And he works for the Lakers. He's a strength and conditioning
Okay.
coach, and he is Randy Flores. He's awesome, and he is a very, very, very knowledgeable strength and conditioning coach. So she moved out here from Vegas, and I think it was just timing. Like she had the back thing going on, and I think that was kind of like a good time for her, right, to leave Vegas because obviously she wanted to be with Randy. And so yeah, we were at so basically like I reached out to her. I had competed against her in the past, and she was coming off injury. I was like super pregnant. And so we just like started hanging out. We started working out together. And throughout the season last year, the open quarterfinals, we just kind of like got together, did the workouts. And I knew kind of like where I was at. Like I just wasn't at the same levels I've been at in the past. And so I just kind of like for the first time ever, I just needed to take like a step back and just like kind of like, support someone else the way I would have loved to be supported. And so I think like at that time
Wh-
is kind of like when our friendship grew
Yeah.
a little bit.
What does that look like? Like, what does that kind of support look like when it's not an official capacity? Like, what kind of things do you offer?
I think just like showing up, right? And just I think we're both like kind of in like this place of like not maybe having like all this confidence that we're used to having. And just kind of like cheering her on, dude. Like just I think this sport is very lonely on the individual side of things. Like I can't speak much on the team side of things, but being an individual for as long as I have, like it can be very lonely and you have to
Mm.
be good at pushing when nobody's watching. And so when these things come up and she's trying to come back in and see if she can make semifinals, right? Like I think for us to just kind of like show up for her, like physically just say, "Hey, we're here. We got you. It doesn't matter if you make it. And if you do, great." Like, and I think that we kind of offered this like no pressure like situation for her to where we genuinely wanted her to succeed and like no matter what we were like so proud of her. Um so and yeah, so basically like we did all of the all of the workouts together and then like quarterfinals rolled around and we gave those a go. And she smashed it obviously and um Bethany is one of those people where I'm just like she moves so well. And I know what she's capable of. I mean, I competed against her at West Coast Classic. And that was, I mean, I was fit that year. Like I was so fit. And I mean, she swept that competition. Like it was insane. So
Yeah.
she is so capable of so much. Um, and I think just like I said, like I think just building like these real relationships in the CrossFit space are so important to where you can kind of like if you were to leave tomorrow, like, can you look to your right and left and do you have friends? Like, did you make any relationships while you're doing the thing? Or were you so focused about yourself um that you leave and you're just like bitter, and I just think that like for myself this last year, I think just like putting my, like kind of like like I'd been trying to qualify for the games for a very long time. And so I was just like, you know what? Like there's more to life than CrossFit. And I think just kind of like building a friendship with Bethany and Randy this last year, like just really, I think, kind of set like, I don't know, like it kind of gave her this like boost that she might have needed,
Yeah.
without um expecting anything in return.
Is that like what you're talking about there? The looking left and right and the maybe potential bitterness. Is that like true experience? Like say pre, like up as far as that West Coast Classic that you had. Did
Yeah,
you
I
did
mean,
you
like,
walk away from that and be like, "Fuck, like I've kind of not really done this the way I would have wanted to," and now you're kind of helping other people
no.
do it the way you would have?
No, I think just like talking, like, I think, I've been in this space a long time and I have seen people like kind of leave the sport and just be like, ugh, I hate CrossFit, and I just
Mm,
like, I don't want to leave like this space. I don't want to leave the space. Right. And so I think there's other hats to be worn. Um, if like maybe you're not at that top notch level at the moment. And so, like, I think there are opportunities to make friends in this space and like lifelong friendships. And I think a lot of people look past that in the moment because they're so focused on themselves and like winning and like that, there's just a lot of like, I think jealousy, like on the girl side. Like, I think there could be like a lot of like jealousy and like, like maybe like you just really don't want them to win, like you want it all. And so I think, not necessarily from experience because I think I've been aware of that and I kind of like, I know the kind of personality you have to like do well in this sport. And so yeah, I think just, making sure that I'm giving back what I'm able to give back, and I think right now that just calls for a lot of support and like I can, like I can show up for people, and be proud of other people, um, and lift them up when they need it.
Do, do you think that that is? Do you think that that is unique to the female side, or do you think it's just that female females in general? This is total generalization, but the females in general maybe wear their heart in their sleeve a bit more, and they're maybe a bit more obvious about it.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's definitely more of a female thing. I'm sure the guys experience it too a little bit, but in a different way. But yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I think it's a little more of a girl thing, right? Like, I mean, we could talk like, like me, like 8 years ago, right? Like, I kind of knew, like, I don't like for me back then, like being a little more immature. Like, I think I was so aware of kinda how I was that I didn't really wanna throw myself into, like, a situation with, like, a bunch of competitors, like, I didn't wanna be around them all the time, and
Mm,
so, just being, like, kind of aware of, like, how that is, right? Because I never wanted to feel like I was losing every day and all that good stuff, so I think, like, just being aware of kinda how I was when I was really immature and just, like, maturing now, like, I know that the sport is very lonely, so if I'm able to, like, give back in this way of, like, "Dude, I got you. Like, I'm proud of you." Like, this stuff is hard, right? Like,
mm,
you don't need to, like, turn your shoulder on people, like, you just like, it's hard. It's already hard enough, so if we can just, like, be there and show up, like, I think that's more than enough,
mm,
for as someone like Bethany, right? Like, just being the support system, like, I feel like she needs, you know?
mm.
And too, like, she's awesome. Like, we literally like, it's funny because 'cause I'm like, even without CrossFit, like, we totally hang out. Like, we went line dancing, we went to a cat cafe. Like, I mean, it's like fun stuff, right? It has nothing to
They're
do with fitness.
not two activities I would have picked of a line of
Right?
activities.
Exactly. But that's what I'm
Yeah.
talking about, right? Like, and I think CrossFit was this thing that we share. But they're like there's like a lifelong friendship that came out of that, you know?
Yeah. Um, so is there like you talk about like potential cattiness and stuff from females.
Mhm.
Is there like have you ever had any conversation because like Perrin, she works with Perrin from Think Tank. Like has there ever been any like right, we need to set some ground rules like like about are you like any of those kind of official conversations or is it is do you view your role purely as like kind of I'm trying to think of a way to describe it that isn't weird, and the only thing I can think of is doula, and I know that doesn't make sense, but, like, that you're, like, supporting her through, like, what she's doing
Yeah,
without, like
kinda. Yeah, like, as far as, like, Bethany goes, yeah, kind of just, like, We are literally her support system.
Yeah.
Josh and I have been helping her with a lot of the like media side of things, and making sure she's like capturing her career in a really cool way. And like we're kind of like you said earlier, like Josh wears a lot of hats, and we have a lot of things um we love to do. We like,
Mm,
and like we like to go above and beyond when we do things. And we've put in a lot of like work to be able to do those things. And we're very much like, if a door opens, like go through it, because if you don't go through it, someone else will. And because of the work and time we have put in, we have a lot of confidence in the things we do.
mm.
So like as far as just like Bethany, she's like, working with Perrin, like Randy, like I said earlier, like he is very smart. Like he, and just like the strength side of things, like he knows so much, and it's really fun to like hear him talk about all that stuff. So yeah, for me, like and Josh, like we're purely like good friends with her. We're a support system. And we've been helping with like capturing some like
Mm.
media stuff, and um which has been really cool too, because like we have pulled in some like camera ops that like work in
Oh,
like
so they have no work. So they're not
well,
doing,
yeah,
yeah,
but
yeah.
like yeah, right. But like
A
they've
crew of
all
like
like
12
done
around her when she's doing pull-ups.
right, but they've all done like CrossFit, so it's kind of cool because they work in film and TV. But um they do CrossFit, so they love it.
Yeah, that's
And
cool.
so to be able to like, kind of bridge those gaps too,
Yeah.
has been really fun, because we know kind of like, oh, the shots we want, and like what we like, the story like we want her to be able to tell and
Mm,
stuff. And so that's been really fun. And that like we're at Rogue with her. And that was like pretty much like the reason, not I mean to watch her obviously, because that's what we were doing, but
mm,
to also like make sure we were capturing that part of her season as well. Cause like she didn't really know how far she was gonna go in the season, right? Like it was all kind of like she was like, if I make semifinals, I'm like, well, in the back, like in my gut, she was making semifinals, Um, and then like, I mean, she completely annihilated semifinals when she was there, right? And so it's just like one of those things where like doors kept opening for her, and she kept going through them, and they're paying off. And she is a very incredible athlete. And I think there's a big future for her coming. Obviously she's working through a lot of injury and stuff. But yeah, we're super proud of her, and it's been a really fun season. It was the first season like I've stepped away from like competing, like which
mm.
was also super weird. But I feel like if I hadn't linked up with her, like I'm wondering if I would have just been like, I don't want to be around this, like I don't um like like why am I doing this, like kind of thing. And I
Mm.
think it was like kind of a blessing in disguise for me too, to just say like, hey, like you can totally still be involved even if you're not like just, qualifying for everything and all this stuff. It took a
Mm.
little like pressure off me per se.
Um, so then I guess luckily that you struck up the friendship with her then, because now you're, I don't really know what your relationship is, but you seem to be doing a similar but slightly more hands-on approach with Haley Adams now this year. Is that true?
Yeah, so Josh and I, yes, we are working with Haley Adams, and that is um, a coaching role.
Okay.
So we are working with her. So a very different role. Like not like I mean, obviously, like we're friends and everything, but with Bethany, it was very much like we kind of linked up. She lives in LA. We hit it off. Like we love hanging out with her and stuff, and we are going to do whatever we can to like help her in whatever capacity we can help her in.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, with Haley, yeah, we are working with her, and it's super cool, and we're so excited. Um, and yeah, I guess we can kind of talk about that a little bit.
How
Since
how is that
I was kind
structured
of
like
quiet.
for how is it structured for so it's a coaching role, but like, is she a mayhem athlete? Is Facundo working with you and her, or is it just you guys
Um,
now? Or
so we actually just met Facundo
okay,
at Rogue. I'd like talked to him before. And so like I know that they talk quite a bit, and I know he's like seen the stuff that we send her and stuff, but like we as of now, we haven't really like been in direct contact with him.
hmm
So we send her stuff, and it's very tailored towards Hayley.
yeah,
Um, so it's, it's a lot different than I think what she's done in the past. Which obviously, like, let's be real, like Haley is just very fit, right? Like she has what we call it, right?
mm.
Like she's just got it, right? And so I think that just her having it has got her so far in sport. Like, I mean, she's incredible. Um, and I think just having maybe like a little more like structure, maybe we can call it that, in her training is something that we're just changing, right? Like, I don't think that that's something she's necessarily done in the past. We have her on a lot of progressions, and it kind of like it's funny because when I first started CrossFit, like I was very much like all my things were progressions, you know. And
Mm.
then I actually at some point, I think it was during COVID, I've actually like followed the mayhem programming and stuff. So I've like also kind of like seen a lot of what she's done. And so I just, like I think just like kind of it's funny because like I feel like she was doing a lot of that stuff and now we have her on progressions and I did the opposite,
Yeah, yeah.
with my career. So I think we have a very good understanding of like kind of like what she's done in the past. We talked a lot about, like it was funny too, because at first we weren't really like sure. We're like, all right, we can try this. Like we weren't even really sure what it was.
How did
Um,
it initiate? How did it start?
Basically, like she was out in LA and we went and grabbed like lunch with her at this like fun little brunch spot. It had like rainbow lattes. It was super fun. Um, and she was just talking and we were, I asked her, I was like, are you thinking about coming back? Like, she's like, oh, I'm not really sure. And like, I want to, but I don't know. And so eventually, like, Josh and I actually like we suggested a few coaches camps and she's like, I don't want to camp. And so I think that's a big, and I think that's just like something that's different. Like there's nothing against camps. I think that just every athlete's going to be a little different and they're going to need something a little different in their day-to-day thing, right?
Mm.
Um and so we kind of knew from the get-go, we were like, okay, she doesn't want to camp. So, we were like, what about this person? What about this person? And then eventually it was like, kind of like, well, what would you guys give me, if, and we're like, all right. So we, we sent her like basically like this like spreadsheet of kind of like what like this cycle would look like, and just like kind of laid it out. Sent that over and she like kind of did it, and so it was a lot of like that, like kind of like back and forth, like, do they know what they're talking about? Do I, it's a little bit of like that. And so eventually it just kind of like organically happened. And yeah, dude, it's been really cool. It's really special. Like I think, I think like the most important thing for her right now is that she's having fun in the gym and
Mm.
enjoying like just being there. Um,
Like hearing her talk on she's on with Savan recently,
mhm,
um, and she just sounded like damaged, like she had been
yeah,
broken,
for
and
sure.
like
Yeah,
something like there was just something missing. Like it
yeah,
wasn't even a case of like, oh, like the love of competing. Like I
right.
actually just felt so sorry for her that it was
Yeah,
like it's kind of like you're talking about with that with Jack and
mhm,
like how Josh was helping him with this the kind of yo-yo thing of like that
yeah,
you can't just consistently keep going
yeah,
forever. That it's basically that's what happened. It was like
sure, yeah,
you said it's like what happens with these kids is you can't keep going forever. And like she was a kid and she was just going
yeah.
forever and just basically just ran into the ground.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like, you can get really lost in like CrossFit, I think, like, because, right, like when you start, like, you're like, "Oh, man, I love this." And then you start getting better and you're like, "Wow,
Mm.
I love this." And then, like, at some point, you just dive right in, and then you can't stop, right?
Well,
And
it's a
it's like
conveyor belt. It's like one season
yeah,
ends, then there's another event, or there's another like,
yeah.
there's always something coming.
Mhm, and it's like, you kinda, like, get to this you're like, "I'm never gonna be good enough. I gotta put in more work. I gotta do more than them. I gotta do this. I gotta do that." So it's like this, like, hamster wheel, and it's like, when you don't have, like, very individualized, like, over the shoulder help, I think that it's really easy to do that,
Mhm.
to just kinda, like, keep going, and it's never enough, and just, like, kind of, if I don't do this today, then I'm losing, and, just, like, things like that, right? And just, maybe, like, not seeing, like, progression on the leaderboard, right? Like, maybe,
Mm.
like, because also, like, I think people, like, a lot of people, like, they'll, like, look up, like, "Oh, where'd they place?" Right? And it's like, you're married to this, like, placement constantly on the leaderboard in CrossFit, because people, like, have a hard time, like, they can't really, like, watch it, like, they don't really know what's happening, like, it's kinda confusing, it's hard to follow, um, and I think, like, if you're able to kinda just, like, say, like, "Okay, for the leaderboard, like, am I getting better?" Like, right? And I think, like, we're really trying to, like, keep her on these progressions so she can see her improvement with
Mm.
herself. Um, and I think that when you have, like, an athlete that has it and their confidence is lifted and built up, like, I think that can be really dangerous. I think, I think that, like, the way, like, we're kind of approaching her is really good. It's really healthy. She's happy. Like, we're constantly, like, checking in with her. And I don't know what it looked like for her in the past. Like, we're not trying to, like, replace, like, what she's always had. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're just like an extension that, like, we're like, "We got you, like, let's do this," like I said earlier with Bethany, we're very much the people that will show up.
Mhm.
And we've put in a lot of work when nobody was looking, nobody's asking. I've been competing for like 10 years, it's been a long time. And I think, like, for me, like, I understand, like, kind of like the headspace of the athlete and, like, all that emotional stuff. And um, obviously, like, I've applied a lot of, like, training protocols, and then with Josh, like, I mean, he's very much like, just, like, in the books, very smart. Um, and with us too, it's like, we're very much like, if we don't know something, like, we're gonna go find someone that knows how to do it better,
Mhm.
right? Like, if that's, like, swimming, right? Like, we're gonna go find a coach at the college level, the Olympic level, and we're gonna ask them, "Are we missing something? Are we not seeing something?" And so I think, like, it's a really, really cool, opportunity for us, because we, one, we love this kinda stuff. We love CrossFit, um, but, like, it's fun because we're, like, networking, we're pulling in people that can help us also
Mhm.
with her. So
Like, di was some of your work, say, on the psychological side, done by the fact that she had taken time off? Like, do you think if you like, when you got her, was she that sounds like she was a trading card. When she started working with you guys, did you notice, like, was she in a better place than you thought she would be from what you had seen and heard? Was she in a worse place, like psychologically, say, or mentally, than you thought she was going to be when you started working with her? Like, how much attention do you pay to that? Because, like, we were, like, I was talking to someone about it the other day, and they were saying that we were kind of chatting about, like, will Mal come back? Will Haley come back? Would they? Are they like? Is the games a gimme? Like, are they
mhm,
just a shoe in to make it to the
right,
games?
yeah.
And I kind of land on the side of, like, well, it depends what's happened between their ears in the
Right,
last
yeah,
12 months. Like, if they come back and they're the same person mentally that they were before their break, it's only a matter of time before the same. Like, if they just said, like, I'll be fine, and just kept plugging away,
right,
went back into the old routines and stuff, regardless of what the training is like, I feel like it's just inevitable that it's going to happen again.
yeah,
Um, so. how much attention do you pay? Like you talk about outsourcing stuff like swimming and stuff. Is that something else that you look at outsourcing? Is it your own experience? Is it just kind of a fluent conversation? Because I suppose one of the things that I noticed is that you say that she didn't want to camp, and from what I've seen on her social media and on your social media, it's like she's moved from a camp literally into a family. Like she seems like she's
Mhm.
part of your family and part of
Yeah.
that rather than like a machine.
Yeah, and I think, like, for some athletes, like, that's kinda all you really need. You just need, like, kind of to keep the circle a little smaller, and just check in with those people, because there's
Mm,
not a lot of comparison happening, and what you're saying, we do have a lot of, like, conversation with her, right? And so we are constantly talking, like, we kinda, like, met her where she was at, right? Like, she had taken some time off, and it's like, we didn't come in with any expectation. We weren't like, "Oh, you should be able to do all this," right? Like, it's kinda like, "Dude, where are you at? You taking some time off? Let's kinda, like, pull it back. Let's see where you're at, not just physically, but mentally," and just kinda, like, build from there. And I think that approach is healthy, right? Like it trends in the healthy direction. Um, but yeah, it is. I mean, it's like with any athlete at this level, like you have to have someone that you're constantly checking in with. Because if you don't, it can burn you out. And then all you have is just like your mind and like the workouts, right? Like you need to
mm,
have like some outside stuff. And I know like for me, like I know I never went fully all in with CrossFit, right? Like I wasn't doing it full time and stuff. And I had a lot of balance and maybe like, I don't know, like maybe like having like some coaches that also have like other things going on. Like maybe like she likes that, like
mm,
maybe it's like, "Oh, dude, like, she's got kids, she's got husband," like, it's like, maybe, like, it's not just the CrossFit, maybe we're also teaching her, like, "Hey, dude, like, there's more to life, like, you can be really, really good at this, but you can also, like, enjoy your life," right? And I
mm,
think, like, maybe that's why, like, we were kinda, like, placed in this situation, is to just kinda, like, help her, because obviously she's young and she's got so many years ahead of her. And two,
mm,
like, we told her it's like she doesn't have to do this, right? Like, and we're gonna like her and we're gonna love her no matter what. Like, she doesn't have to do this, and I think just like maybe hearing that, like maybe that's something that kind of like she can appreciate,
mm,
because like honestly, like I love like when I get to work out with her, when we're in the same state. Um, like it's super fun, It's like it's fun to like kind of have this like genuine relationship with people and then to be able to work out with them. It is really hard to be around your competitors if you're not like friends first. Like, I
mm,
think, like, when you're building, like, camps and stuff, like, if I were to have a camp, like, I would, like, make sure that, like, everyone was kinda on the same page, all the personalities were clicking and, make sure that we're building, like, a genuine, like, friendship with people and then having the camp because then it's, like, all fun and games, and I think sometimes it's being done maybe backwards.
mm,
Um and maybe it's like it just gets to you, right? Like, I can't imagine, like, just from my personal experience, like, just being in the same room as, like, people I'm competing against, like, at semifinals, like, on the daily. Like, I
mm,
think I don't know, I know for me, like, I would probably like, a lot of that, like, jealousy, like, the younger version of me, like, a lot of, like, jealousy and just, like, I'm not good enough, maybe, like, that kinda stuff, like, kinda comes out. Um, so and if you know that about yourself, it's okay to, like, kinda just be like, "Okay, I need to change things up," you know? And that's just, like, my experience, right? Like, I love, like, dropping into gyms and, like, training with people and, like, making sure, like, I'm making good friendships with people and stuff, but, like, just the day-to-day is where it's like, okay, this gets pretty hard if you're always
mm.
around it because 'cause you're just, like, always competing, right? It's just always a competition, and that could get exhausting.
Yeah. Do you, yeah, I know you're saying that like she doesn't have to do it, and she's aware that she doesn't have to do it, and I guess that. ramps up the buy-in because it's a choice rather than a
Mhm.
chore or rather than an
Right.
obligation or
Yeah.
whatever. Um, have you prepared her, or is she preparing herself for the spotlight being back on her for when she does turn up on like whether it's Miami or some
Sure. Yeah.
semi-final or the games or whatever. I mean, before she took her break, it was always like fittest American woman and
Right.
we
Yeah.
need to, and there was all that pressure, like felt like it was mounting
Yeah.
pretty the year on
For su
year.
Yeah, no, for sure. We definitely talk about that, and, like, we obviously not on the CrossFit side of things, like, but in the entertainment world, have a lot of, we have a lot of people that are in the spotlight quite a bit, and it's kind of the same thing, like, you just kinda need to, like, really get through to them, and it's a different generation now, like, I'm very aware of it because everyone's on their phone and stuff. I think a lot of the time, like, if they can just, like, kind of, like, maybe not worry too much about the people that don't really know them, like, and maybe just, like, kinda keep that circle tight,
Hmm.
um, and lean on to the people that are they got you no matter what. They know what's going on and stuff, and I think that we are doing our best to prepare her for that spotlight coming in, and
Is
I don't think it
avoidance a
necessarily like
possibility?
say that again?
Like, is avoidance a possibility? Like, hey, just like fuck your phone for 6 months. Just get, like just delete your social media for 6 months and then just don't
I
even.
like your idea there. I honestly because, like, just the generation, I don't
Yeah.
think it's
It's a
possible,
short it's a
but it's a
short-term
great idea.
solution. It's like a just set up a fake account so you can keep an eye on your friends and shit, but don't
For
post your training,
sure.
don't follow any games athletes, don't,
Yeah.
like just train and just keep your head down and don't avoid. And it's the same. I remember like straight away with Mal, I remember hearing Savan saying like her head's in her phone. And it's like it is a generational thing where you're surrounded by the algorithm is just pumping content to you, whether you like it or
Sure,
not.
yeah,
That's what you're doing. And it's for
yeah.
them, it's going to be their direct competitors. And it's going to be, I remember hearing Hayley talk on Savannah about how being afraid that other people are doing more. And that works for some people. Like it worked. Fraser
Mhm.
famously, that's how he trained. He
Right,
trained
yeah,
afraid. But you do have this thing of like they are just kids. And there's a lot of pressure as soon like Tia retires
right,
and or Tia takes her break and suddenly it's well Mal's gonna win now, obviously. So
right,
straight
yeah,
away the pressure is up to 1,000.
yeah,
And then if it's not Mal, it's well, Haley finished like fifth last year, so she has to, and now the pressure's on her. And like it is hard because media and analysts and everything else need something to talk about.
sure,
Um,
yeah,
we are going to talk about who's going to do what and who's going to do well and who might struggle and what are certain people's pitfalls and whatever. And I think I and others adopt the approach of talking about the athletes like their football teams.
yes,
So, oh, that team's defense is shit translates as, oh,
100%,
her squat is shit
right,
comparatively. Or that team's offense is shit translates as like, oh, that guy's gymnastics are fucking awful
yeah,
comparatively.
yeah,
Um,
dude,
like
totally,
I hope everyone appreciates how I changed that to an American sport reference rather than but it's a tricky one to manage because I suppose avoidance, yeah, it's a short term solution. But then there's also that thing of we were talking about it the other day on the Games Review show, talking about Tia and how now she's been beaten for the
yeah,
first time in years. It's like Laura knows that she's beatable now. Like she
mhm,
knows that there isn't that hoodoo around it.
yeah,
And when it's a sport like CrossFit, psychological, like there's a lot of psychological stuff in the sport
yeah,
because it's a solo thing, like golf or whatever. And you would wonder about the weight that that would carry for someone like Haley or someone like Mal,
mhm,
or the boost it would give competitors against Haley or against Mal who see like, oh, they're weak, they took time off. Or they
right,
might think, oh, I'm weak, I had to take time off. Or, oh, this, like, what have these been doing when I took my time off? That kind of thing where it's at your lowest moment or at your most pressured moment that those thoughts start to creep in or are in danger of creeping in.
yeah.
Um, do you think that those two girls can get back to where they were? Do you think? Do you, like are they potential games champions? Do you think is that
Yeah,
something?
I absolutely do think that they can get back to where they have been in the past. I think that, obviously I don't know Mal. I know she's very
Mm,
good friends with Hayley and stuff, but as far as Hayley goes, I think she's made some changes that she needed to make, um, in order like, she just needed to like, almost, like, kinda, like, start fresh. Um, but I think that, like, myself and Josh, like, if we can do something, right, we can hype this girl up to give her what she needs in the realm of like support. I think like we are very good at making sure she's working hard, but also giving her some fun, right? Like we're
mm,
constantly checking in. She told us that there was like I think it was like a fundraiser at Mayhem or whatever, and she had like some training to do, and she's like, "Oh, should I, do my training or hop into this like fundraiser?" We're like, "Do the fundraiser, like go do that. Like that's good for you, like that that's going to make you feel good."
mm,
Or like just making sure that she's got like a little balance because I think people forget that she is only 22 years old, right? Like her career has been as long as mine and I'm like 12 years older, 14 years older than her. So it's like she missed that like like she didn't go to prom, right? Like it's like there's like little things like that, but they matter. And so I think just making sure that we're aware of that and like that we can like add a little balance in there for her, while she's still working hard.
mm.
And I do think it's possible, but yeah, because it's like if she does the same thing she did last time, the same thing might happen,
Yeah.
right? So I think it's important to kind of like just change it up a little bit because you don't know what you don't know, right? And so I think just the like positive shift. Also, too, you have to remember if Hayley, like if she's happy, like that is scary. Like a happy Hayley is very scary. Like a happy competitor is like just like that's dangerous, And so I think it's like that's the number one goal, right? Is just making sure she's having a good time. Because if you're having a good time, you want to be in the gym, you're going to train harder. You're going to, you're just going to put like you're going to pay attention to the details. You're going to do all the little things.
Mm,
Um because you're happy, and like I hope that this younger generation in the CrossFit space, like I hope they don't just come compete for a few years and then leave because I mean CrossFit's kind of like one of those things it's like it's really here to keep you healthy and happy and fit so you can do things longer, you know. And not to mention you meet really awesome people and you got to connect with them, you know. Um so I don't know. I think that the change is really, really good for her. I think that what I will say is like what I appreciate about her, she's really willing to pivot. Like, and so is my husband. And I think that when you're willing to kind of pivot, um, like you there's other opportunities for you, you know, and cool things happen when you're someone that can kind of say, you know what, this isn't working, let's go this way.
mm,
Okay, that's not working, let's go this way. And I think that is like a skill in itself. And I know for me, like that's a really hard thing to do. Like I'm like, oh, this is what I've always done. Like I'm kind of scared, right? And I think just being able to have that skill um can really lead to some success like later down the road.
mm. Is a camp or like taking on more athletes, is that something that you're interested in doing? Is this like a test run to see how it goes?
Um, so right now Josh and I actually like talks about this. It's very much so like we want to focus on Hayley. Um, so I would say no right now as far as like that level of athlete. Like we
Mm,
have other like clients that are in the CrossFit space, but they're not at the games level. And we've been doing that for a very long time. Um, as well. But yeah, like as of right now, I just think like focusing on like one and making sure that that is done um well is kind of like what we want,
Mm,
We want to do this really well. We want to make sure that we want to move the needle with her. Because if we're going to do something, we want to do it right, you know? And we don't want like our plate to be so full to where we can't do a good job.
mm.
And so it's just like, yeah, it's like one of those things too, right? It's like we don't want to spread ourselves too thin because then I don't feel like we can pour the same amount of energy into it.
Yeah, that's
Um,
fair.
yeah, and like for us too, like, we have a successful career in the film and TV world. Um, and like we do this because we just love it, right? Like we love CrossFit, like in we have always like we've always been like, oh, it'd be really cool to like coach someone at like the high level. Like we didn't think like it was gonna wrap around and be Hayley, like so it's just I mean, it's crazy. But like for us, like I said earlier, it's like when those doors open, like and you can crush it, like why not? You know?
Mm. Yeah, I
So
like that. Um, well, listen, I'll let you go. Thanks for giving up so much of your time and coming on.
oh, for sure.
Good luck with Haley season and your doula role with Bethany if that continues as well.
She's gonna
Yeah,
think that's so funny.
yeah, I don't know. You can coin that phrase if you like.
She's gonna
Thanks for
love
everyone commenting as well. Appreciate everybody watching and stuff. So it's obviously live on YouTube now, and then
for
the
sure.
audio. I think the audio version of this is coming out tomorrow week, so next
Sweet.
Wednesday. Yeah. But thank
Sweet.
you. That was great.